Perek Shlishi, in the middle of Perek Shlishi, the third chapter, Pasuk Chav Zayin. In the past few chapters, we discussed the benefits of Chokhmah, of learning this great wisdom that we have, the Torah Kedosha. There are many important lessons to be learned. And the Sefer Mishlei is about those lessons, what is contained in the Torah. Not the rules, that is of course in the Gemara, in the Torah itself. Here we have the Musar. And as we learned in Pirkei Avot, Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai, the reason why Pirkei Avot, which is also a book of ethics and good advice about life in general, the reason it begins with Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai is that in the same way the Torah was given from Sinai, so was all the Chokhmah and the Musar that the rabbis gave us and shared with us. So here, in Perek Shlishi, towards the end of Perek Shlishi, Shlomo Melech is going to tell us a little bit about what is in this Torah. Not only why this is important, which he will review and repeat and emphasize from time to time, but he will give us some of those examples that are contained within the Torah, some of the midot, some of the ethics that we have to adapt to ourselves, how to conduct ourselves between ben adam lechavero, not only between man and God, but amongst ourselves. And as observers, after all, we're all observers in this world. We're not only acting and living our life, but we also observe certain things. In order to have a proper understanding of what is going on in the world, to have a proper understanding, but not to be misled, we need to learn this Torah. The Torah will hopefully clarify to us many things that we're unaware of, many things that we would not understand properly unless we followed this Chokhmah. So he begins with the following pasuk: Al timna tov mi be'alav biyot le'el yadecha la'asot. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due. That is a simple translation. When it is in the power of your hand to do it. In other words, if you have something good that you could help others with, you have something that you can share with others, don't hold it back, as long as you have the ability to do so. Simply translated, if you're able to help someone in any way possible, by giving him good advice, by giving him some assistance, then don't hold it back. Al tamud al dam re'acha, the Torah says, don't stand behind when you see your friend's blood being shed. If you can save his life, and there's not too much risk involved. But the other meaning is Al tachzik tova le'atzmecha. You did something good, you learned Torah, don't hold it for yourself. Don't keep it just for yourself. Share it with others. Teach it to others. So Al timna tov mi be'alav therefore could mean anything that you have that may be of some use to others. Don't hold it back. Don't hold it for yourself. Another idea in this pasuk is Al timna tov mi be'alav. There are certain individuals out there who want to do good, who have a good idea. Don't dissuade them. Don't cool them off of the idea. Don't ridicule them, because then they will be cooled off from the idea. In other words, don't do anything to interfere with somebody's good idea. If somebody has a good idea, he has some good intentions, and he wants to do something, encourage him. Or don't say anything at all, but don't cool him off. Al timna tov mi be'alav. If there's somebody out there who wants to do good, then don't hold it back. Don't hold him back from doing it. And it's a tremendous avon, by the way. It's a tremendous sin for those who discourage others from giving tzedakah for a worthy cause. You know, they may say, don't give him money, he doesn't need it. How do you know? You have to be 100% sure that what you're saying is right. Otherwise, you're holding somebody back from doing something good. And this may be a really important cause. Next pasuk. Al tomar lereacha lech vashuv umachar eten v'yeshitach. Do not say to your neighbor or to your friend, go and come back and tomorrow I will give you, if you really have it by you right now. The typical example of this is the check is in the mail. Right? People call up, where's the money, where's the check, you owe me for a job. And you tell them the check is in the mail, when it's not true. You weren't planning to write him a check today, you're not planning to write him a check next week, but you push him off by telling him the check is in the mail. Don't do that. Don't push people off. Don't delay payment if it's due, because it causes several problems. Number one, when you promise something, you have to fulfill. That's what Shlomo Melech is trying to say. Keep your word. Be honest. And part of being honest is if you say something, be truthful about it. If you promise, you deliver. Don't delay. Anybody who delays, what is he showing? If he has, we're talking about he has the money. If he doesn't have it, he should say, I don't have it. But assuming that he has it and he's simply delaying tactics, it shows tsarut ayn. Tsarut ayn means a narrow eye. One who is stingy, one who has a problem with seeing other people being happy. It's worse than stinginess. It's tsarut ayn. He has a narrow eye. He can't, in Yiddish we say, kenish faginen. Or in Hebrew, he's not happy with somebody else is happy, somebody else is successful. So delaying something that doesn't really cost you that much, you have it. It's because deep down, maybe that's the problem that this individual has. He's not happy if the other person just made a few dollars, just got himself a good deal. So delaying shows tsarut ayn. It also is embarrassing if the person has to come back and forth many, many times. It's embarrassing. And it causes him pain. It's painful. If he could have used this money in the meantime, he may have to borrow money from someone else. So all this delaying tactic is a tremendous disfavor to an individual. We're talking about the guy has the money, then why not pay him? And this is of course very much related to the lav, to the prohibition that the Torah is very clear about. Lo al talim tu'ulat sechir. Don't hold back wages from an employee. If his wages are due today, give it to him today, if you have the money. If you don't have the money, tell him, okay, listen, come back in 48 hours, I'll have the money. I don't have it now. And it's true, that's fine. As long as he's in agreement, that's okay. But if to have the money and not to pay the worker when the money is due, he just worked for his money, he's looking forward to get the money. Especially if he's a poor man and he desperately needs the money. The avon is compounded even more, the sin is even greater. What does this have to do with the musar? All of this is musar, because one may learn Torah, one may become a tremendous Talmid Chacham, one may observe Ilchot Shabbat very carefully, but its human relationships are much more tricky. There's all sorts of yetzarim, all sorts of weaknesses that human beings have, that they don't realize that all the Torah is worthless if they don't apply it, they don't put it to work. So it's not only important to learn the Chokhmah, it's important to put it to practice. And part of the Torah is to teach us the proper behavior, the proper attitude. And this is definitely the wrong attitude, not good behavior, when people delay people from giving them what is owed to them. Do not share with them what could be shared with them that would not really cost that much. That would not be such a difficulty. And this is not, we're not only talking to one who has the money and owes his employees. We're also talking about, Shlomo Melech also had in mind here, a borrower himself. Imagine Shimon borrowed money from Reuven. So Reuven is the lender, right? And Shimon is the borrower. And Reuven comes to collect his money from Shimon. I don't have it right now. Come back another day. This man did you a favor. Be truthful with him. Don't just push him off. Don't give him excuses. And this is something that happens all the time, believe it or not. There are individuals out there, when we learn this, we might think to ourselves, you mean to say there are people like that? Yes. I remember when I was learning Gemara, whether it was Ketuvot or Kiddushin, and the Gemara there discusses situations where a mother is left out of the inheritance because there are children and the husband passed away, and there's a Ketuvah, and there's all sorts of discussions as to what her rights are and what the children can tell their mother. And I said to myself, wait a minute, this is when I'm learning the Gemara. You mean to say that there are kids out there who are cruel, who wouldn't be considerate of their mother? You mean there are husbands out there that would be willing to do this or that? And of course, when you grow up and you see the real world out there, yes, there are all sorts of situations. People will do almost anything for money. There are people who have no derech eretz, do not know how to behave themselves, who have the wrong ideas, and terrible attitude about certain things. And yes, that is why we have to learn this musar. What is the proper attitude? What is the proper behavior? And here we have a borrower who received money, and there are some people who deny it. We didn't even talk about them. They totally deny ever receiving money. And eventually we'll talk about that. Shlomo Melech addresses that issue too. Whose fault is it? Not the borrower, the lender. Next time do it with witnesses. Next time sign it. Don't trust anybody. Anybody. Not even your own relative. And we'll talk about that eventually. People have made this mistake time after time. But now we're talking about one who simply pushes him off. He comes up with excuses not to have the money, and it's not right. I'd like to tell over the story that happened with my grandfather. My grandfather was owed some money by this individual. And every time he would see him at the kotel, he would ask him, so, when are you going to pay me back? I don't have. You know, it could happen that sometimes a person does not have. It could happen week after week, for a couple of weeks, for a couple of months. But what if this person tells you the same thing for a long time? I don't have. And that's exactly what was happening here. So my grandfather comes home, and he asks his kids, my father amongst them, so what do you say? Should I believe him? He says he doesn't have. What do you say, kids? And the kids tell their father, well, if he says he doesn't have, then he probably doesn't have. My grandfather says, no, that's a bunch of lies, baloney. If you really want to pay back someone, then you pay him $1 a week. You show some interest in paying back something. If you don't have even $1 to pay, it's not that you don't have, you don't want to pay. This guy has made up his mind, he does not want to pay. That's all it is. And my grandfather is 100% right. It's logical. Anybody that borrows money should feel a little bit guilty. He has something that is not his in his hands, in his possession. But some people think it's coming to them. And we'll talk about that soon. It's called kfiyut tova, being ungrateful. But there are individuals who simply do not intend to give back or are not responsible, and they intentionally forget that they owe money. And that's terrible. That's not only a bad attitude, it's stealing money that is not yours. So be careful by pushing off your friend, those who have helped you. Don't come up with excuses, and be honest. Next pasuk. Al tachrosh al re'acha ra'a v'hu yoshev lavetach itach. Do not plot evil against your neighbor, especially when you see that he dwells securely with you, by you. Do not plot evil against your neighbor. Here he says that neighbor, but it's your friend, someone that you're very close to. It's called re'acha. What does that mean? The simple meaning is, well, there are various ideas here. One is, if you have something against someone, then tell him. Don't hold it in your heart. The Torah tells us, "Ocheach tocheach tamitecha v'lo tisa alav chet." Ocheach tocheach. If you have something to say, you're bothered by something that your friend did to you, ocheach tocheach, tell him off. Tell him in his face. Tell him clearly, I'm upset at you for this and for this and for that. Don't hold it back, because you're going to hate him. You have to bring it out. It has to come out in the open, and perhaps you're going to be wrong. You're going to find out the real truth. You're going to find out what this individual's intentions were. So al tahshov, don't think, or in this case he calls it al tahrosh, don't think of all sorts of thoughts against your friend that you have against him. V'hu yoshev lavetach itach. In other words, in reality, it could be that you have nothing against him, he has nothing against you. You've been in peaceful terms all along. Then if something bothers you, put it out in the open. That is one way to deal with it. Another way to deal with it is as follows. There are times when we judge individuals, judge our spouses, judge our friends, judge our kids. We're always judging. And we may be judging not the right way. We may not fully understand what was going on in that individual's mind, and we may come to the wrong conclusions. So al tahrosh al re'acha ra'a, don't think negatively of anybody, don't have any bad thoughts about someone. V'hu yoshev lavetach itach, if he was in good terms with you all along, what should you do? Give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Be very careful not to think negatively about people, especially about your close friends. What's wrong? Why not? The reason for that is, not only, first of all, are you wrong, not only is this the wrong attitude, the wrong way of dealing with the situation, but what happens over time when you think and you don't bother to find out the truth, you don't talk in the open, and you just continue, and you don't give the benefit of the doubt, all these thoughts and feelings that you have will accumulate, and eventually you will not like the person. You know where this happens? Between husband and wife. This happens a lot. Husband and wife get into fights. This happens. Disagreements. They don't have to really fight. Disagreements. And these disagreements lead to ill feelings about each other, because they yell at each other. or they were upset for some reason. And many times the thoughts are here and they're not talked about. And all these feelings accumulate over the years, and after 10, 15 years, they're really having a hard time getting along. And then they decide to go to a marriage counselor. And this marriage counselor can no longer help them. Because what has happened? They've lost any love and any good feelings towards each other. They've never made up. See, if you have a disagreement, you get into an argument, that's fine, that happens. But make up. Before you go to sleep that night, just say, I'm sorry, even though the other person is at fault. Still, you should say, I'm sorry. What's the big deal? A little bit of your ego, but it's worth it for the shalom and the harmony of the home. Don't allow these ill feelings to accumulate, because if you do, after many years, all the good feelings and the love have been lost. Whether this is a husband and wife, whether two good friends, whether brothers and sisters. After a while you don't care about them. There's no more intimacy. There's no more good and positive feelings, no communication. So therefore, don't allow these thoughts to accumulate. You have anything that bothers you, bring it out to the open. Give him the benefit of the doubt. If you're not able to, ask him and look into it. We're talking about an individual. He's been in peaceful, good terms with you. So why should you suspect that he's against you? And that's another idea over here. Sometimes we get into a fight, we argue, because we think that this person is against us, especially husband and wife. If they're in good terms, would she or he really think of harming the other? No, but we suspect that. Initially, the human nature is to suspect that the other one is against him. That is why he gets upset. They're not against you. They're out to help you. Husband and wife who really care for each other are not against each other. I hope not. If they are against each other, they shouldn't be together. If they are together and there's some respect and love for each other, they have their good moments, that means they're not against each other. I mean, they can disagree. So this is someone who's not against you. She is not opposed to you. She's just suggesting she may be wrong. So what? She's entitled to an opinion, and so is he. Okay? But they're not against each other. So don't think that this person is against you. Don't have any bad ideas about this individual. If you've been in good terms with them, you have a good relationship. Why not? Because if you allow these thoughts to accumulate, oh, she's against me. She doesn't approve of me. She doesn't like what I do. If that's what one is going to think, you're going to lose touch. You're going to lose your feelings for them. So that's why communication is so important. It's so healthy between husband and wife, between anybody. Communicate. Talk. Sit down and take time off from your work and from all your other daily things that you do, your routine, and invest in your relationship, because that's very, very important. And it could be something so silly. And why allow all these silly things to accumulate? And if you do, it becomes more and more difficult later on to go back, because all these feelings have accumulated and you've never resolved them, and you've lost the love that you had once upon a time. It's like a wound or a scar that has never healed. Yes?
So in that context, your grandfather should have talked to that fellow in the rabbi and really told him, I really feel that you're not being honest with me. You're not being straightforward.
He may have. I don't know. He may have. At some point he may have.
Is it correct you should have, Rabbi?
Yeah, of course.
Because otherwise he was conveying ill will towards the man.
Yeah. What one should not do is, I really think you're a thief. You're an ungrateful man. You don't have to embarrass the guy. You don't have to criticize him. Because what did we just say? You have to give someone the benefit of the doubt. You never know 100%. Perhaps the guy does not have. But it shows ill will on that man's part if he doesn't even attempt to pay back. You can't say you don't have $1 a week. I mean, show some effort.
Maybe your grandfather had to express that point to him.
Could be he did. I don't know. Could be at some point he did. I never was able to ask my grandfather what happened after that.
And why, Rabbi, is a loan a higher form of tzedakah than just giving money? Why is
a loan is a higher form of tzedakah because you're saving the man, the poor man, his dignity.
I see.
That's one reason why it's a higher form of tzedakah. And there's other reasons for it too. So therefore, you're in peaceful terms with someone. Don't think the worst about them. After all, you've been getting along fine just now, all this time. Then give him the benefit of the doubt, talk it out, and you'll see that you could have avoided yourself many, many times some terrible misunderstandings. Now the reason why he says that over here at this point is because of having bad thoughts or thinking negatively about someone, is because we were giving some examples of not paying or pushing someone off, right? Delaying tactics. And the connection between this is very simple. This is somebody who may have helped you. This is somebody who did you a favor, lent you some money. Why are you being negative here? Why are you pushing him off? Why are you giving him excuses? No, don't have any bad ideas. Don't plot against him. This is a man who was so kind to you. And this leads us to the midah fiyu tova, something called ungratefulness. It exists out there. That's why it has a name. There are people who are ungrateful. Now, what does it mean that somebody's ungrateful? In Hebrew, it's called kafui tova. Kafui means to force or to cover up. Lichpot. What does that have to do with someone who's ungrateful? What's the mentality of somebody who's ungrateful? Hu kofeh et hatova. In other words, he says, it's coming to me. It's like he's forcing the man to do him a favor. It's coming to me. And if he has that kind of an attitude, if that's his thinking, obviously he doesn't see this as a favor. As hu kofeh et hatova. He's being ungrateful because he's forcing the favor. The favor is due to him. Another perhaps interpretation of kfui tova, lichpot, also means to cover up. He's covering it up. He didn't do anything. He has the money. What's the big deal for him? Azu mechaseh ala tova. He doesn't see any act of kindness here. What's the big deal? He didn't do me. He owes it to me. I did him once a favor. There are many reasons and there are many ways that people can rationalize their behavior. But this is an individual who did so much for you. Be careful with how you act towards him. Don't push him off. Don't delay paying him back. The rabbis tell us that this pasuk, Al tacharosh al re'acha ra'a ve'hu yoshev levetach itach, is also talking about a husband and wife, where the husband intends to divorce his wife and she doesn't know it. In other words, she's with him levetach. She has full confidence in him. She is somewhat secure. And she's dealing with him in a way that she would never suspect anything. And here he's already planning to divorce his wife. That is terrible. So, al tahrosh al re'acha ra'a. Re'acha, your good friend, your wife. Don't plot if she's living with you in peaceful terms. If you have some problem, obviously bring it up in the open. But don't allow her to assume everything is okay, and here you're plotting a whole plot against her. Chas v'shalom. The next pasuk, Al tarib im adam chinam im lo gmalcha ra'a. Do not strive without cause with man. In other words, do not fight with someone if he has done you no harm. Al tarib im adam chinam, for nothing. That also has various interpretations. There are many people who fight al shtuyot, about nonsense, trivial things. Husband and wife get into fights about trivial things, something which you don't fight about. As it is, to fight is no good. It's not healthy. But sometimes you're allowed to disagree, and you're allowed to voice your disagreement perhaps very strongly about something. But not about chinam, not about shtuyot, not about nonsense. It better be about something important. So Shlomo Melech is telling us, first of all, be careful. When you do get into a disagreement, into a fight, it should not be al-chinam. Don't fight about chinam, about shtuyot. Im lo gmalcha ra'a, unless if he did not do you any harm. Why are you getting into a fight? In other words, be careful. To disagree is possible, but it better be about something important. That is one idea here. Now there are individuals who have a hard time with this pasuk because they're very impetuous, I guess we can call them. They get angry very quickly, impulsive. What do they need? I think psychologists call it anger management. That's what they need. If they have a problem with this, because that's what they do. Em ravim al hinam al shtuyot. They get into fights about nothing, about nonsense, about something which is really trivial. And they need help. Because all of this, again, causes a lot of problems in any situation, whether it's between friends or husband and wife. In Pirkei Avot, you will find two individuals who get angry. One who is slow to anger, he rarely gets angry, and he's slow. You can't make him angry very quickly. But when he does get angry, oy vavoy, he'll never forget it. for the rest of his life, or it will take him a long time to forgive and forget. In astrology, there are certain signs that fit into that. They're slow to anger, but be careful. Once you've angered them, you've lost their friendship. I'll tell you some other time who they are. Then you have the ones who get angry very quickly, just about anything, but they calm down very quickly. You got angry quickly, 5 minutes later, it all went away. It's like the weather, sometimes it's snowing, and all of a sudden the sky clears up. Which one is worse? And I was careful not to say which one is better. Which of the two is worse? The one who gets angry often and quickly, but he calms down very quickly, or the one that it takes him a long time to get angry, but once he gets angry, it's going to be very difficult to calm him down.
That would be the worst one.
So how many are going to vote for the first, and how many are going to vote? Okay, who thinks that the one who gets angry quickly and often is worse? Who thinks that the one who gets angry very, very slowly, takes him a long time, nothing angers him so quickly, but it takes him a long time to forget and forgive? Well, the rabbis disagree with you. Often and quickly is worse than the one who doesn't get angry often, even though that other one takes him a long time to forgive and forget, because this guy is always getting angry. And the midat hakas, this anger, is a very bad midah, bad characteristic to possess. And if that's what is happening to this man, it's a very not healthy thing. So what if he calms down quickly? You know how many people are going to not be his friend? And if he married a very sensitive wife, she's going to have a hard time with it, unless of course she gets used to it. And that's what I tell people. If they marry someone like that, who's impulsive, just wait 5 minutes and the weather will change. Don't fight back. That's the best way to deal with it. And what about someone married someone who's slow to anger? Just don't get him angry. Yeah. Anyway, the rabbis tell us, of course, neither of them is good, because even if you're upset and angry, you have to learn to forgive and to forget, and depending, of course, what it is. But the one who's always getting angry is not good. It's not healthy. It's also not healthy because of the blood pressure and all other things that it could lead to. And especially if it's about shtuyot, about nonsense. So don't fight about just anything. Don't get angry just about anything. It has to be something that is important in order for you to argue about. Another idea over here is al tarib im adam hinam im logim al khara'a. If a person did not really cause you any harm, never has done anything bad to you, don't start thinking that he is against you. Similar to what we said before. Don't have these thoughts on your mind that he's out to get you. Some people think negatively. You know why he's doing this? Because he wants to get back at me because of something I did to him 2 years ago. They're always thinking negatively. Al tarivi madam hinam, don't think or don't fight with someone just for nothing. Im logim al khara, if this person never caused you any harm, if he was always in peaceful terms with you, then why think negatively about him? As the example that I gave between a husband and wife, she's out there to help you. She's your wife, she's the mother of your children. What do you have against her? She's never done anything against you. Don't think negatively and don't fight about something that is really unnecessary. Yeah.
What point does, you mentioned in many other shirim, in interpersonal relationships, one should respect but suspect. At what point does that kick into play?
Eventually we'll talk about respect and suspect. Right now we're only talking about the respect part. One who's in good terms with you, there's no reason for you to suspect. That's what he's really saying at this point. But right now we're not talking about the suspect part, we're talking about not to act upon your suspicions. To argue or to assume negative or to think negatively about the person. Don't think like that. Maybe there's nothing wrong with what they're saying or what they're about to do. You just think that way. Don't be negative if there's no reason for you to be negative here. Another idea, yes.
Thou shalt not get angry or no?
No, that's part of the mutsar.
There's no
commandment.
Don't get angry or no.
The Zohar speaks about the seriousness of kas. Kol minei gehenom sholtim bo. That Gehenom is taking control of him, and it's like he's worshipping an idol. In other words, if a person loses his temper, it's like he's worshipping an idol. He's not worshipping his God because he's losing control of himself, worshipping his anger. So the Zohar is much more into that and emphasizes the seriousness of anger. Alright, let's go on. Another reason why you don't want to fight with anybody or be upset at someone is because if he did something to you, it's not really coming from him, it's coming from Hashemayim. The attitude is he would not have been able to do something had Kadosh Baruch Hu not allowed him to do it. Now if it's something terrible, he will have to pay for it, obviously. He's to blame, but don't blame him if in the end it was intended to be like that in Hashemayim. And the mashal is as follows. The mashal says there was once a malveh, a lender, who sent a messenger to the borrower. Please pay me back the money that you owe me. And the guy did not pay him. And he sent him this messenger many, many times. He sent the messenger so many times that the loveh got upset at the messenger. Stop bothering me. So the shaliach tells the messenger, all I am is a shaliach. Why are you upset at me? I didn't do anything. Right? So sometimes we're upset at an individual where in reality, where does it come from? It comes from Hashemayim. Why be upset at the individual? Obviously we're upset that he acted in a certain way. He's a human being, he has free will.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say.
He's a human being, he has free will, and obviously that's why I said before, if it's something which is against the Torah, he will have to pay for it. But there's no reason to be upset at him. If it happened to you, it means it's coming to you. Min Hashemayim, they allowed it. Obviously we're upset at these individuals because they were not human, perhaps. They did not act in a way that is befitting to a human being. But the reality is that whatever did happen was meant to happen. And all he was a shaliach. Hashem used him. Hashem knew that he would do it. And he brought the two of you together. Next pasuk. Al tekaneh beish Hamas ve'al tivchar bechol derachav. Do not envy the oppressor. Even though Hamas is not an oppressor necessarily, it's one who steals, one who takes advantage of people, and choose none of his ways. Hamas has to do with thievery. Thievery, is that how you pronounce it? Taking that which does not belong to us. So don't be envious. Do not envy him. And the reason why Shlomo Melech is putting an emphasis here and on this is because, what did we say in the very beginning? We are observers. And what do we observe? We observe people who appears that they're getting away with it. They steal from others, they cheat, they oppress others, and they are successful, they're prospering. Here we're being told how to behave, how to act, that it's important to behave in a certain way. And here we are, as observers, seeing all these individuals who are doing everything that is against the Torah, and it appears that they're getting away with it. Don't be envious. Why not envy? Why envious? What does envy come from? Why are people jealous? Well, obviously people want to either be like someone else or have what that other individual has. Therefore, what all this means is that the desire to be like someone else or to have that which someone else has, the root of all of this is kinah. In other words, the reason why he says don't envy is because that's the way things begin. One will adapt another individual's ways if he wants to be like him. And where did it all begin? From his envy. The kinah is what leads him to want to copy what the way somebody else acts, or to have what somebody else acts. And here, obviously Shlomo Melech says, you don't want to be like someone else. You don't want to copy or do what he does. So, in order that you should not follow in his ways and do what he does. So be careful not to be envious, because the envy is the root of why people want to copy and be like others. And this is dangerous. Because if you have that envy in you, you may come eventually to copy him and be like him. So be careful not to envy those who are wicked. Now, the reason why he applies this to ish Hamas, to thievery, to money, to cheating, stealing, money laundering, all of these things that have to do with money, is because the rabbis tell us there's various yetzarim, various evil inclinations, various weaknesses that human beings have. The most powerful one of all, believe it or not, is the Yetzer HaMamon. It's an evil inclination that affects one in areas of money. People have a strong desire for money. They want to have money. Some people have such a strong desire of money that they're willing to steal the money. They're willing to do almost anything and sell themselves for the money. Chaz v'shalom, even work on Shabbat. Money is a tremendous yetzer hara. Imagine if you tell someone, so one of my favorite examples, he's a real estate broker. If you come and sign this deal, you're going to make a large commission on this $25 million deal in Truesdale Estates or whatever. Just come and sign on Shabbat. And people, by the way, are tested in this way. Just come and sign on Shabbat. What is this man going to do? He's a Jew. He's Shomer Shabbat, obviously, he's observant. And here he has an opportunity of a lifetime. And he hasn't made money for the past 6 months. Let's make it a little harder. Just come and sign Shabbat. No, if you wait till Motzei Shabbat, the deal is gone. Somebody else will take it. Some other broker will take it. What are you going to do? So somebody who has this problem with this yetzer is going to say to himself, well, I remember learning in L'chot Shabbat that if you do it with your left hand, if you sign with your left hand, it's a shinui. It's a change. It's not the regular way. It's permissible. Of course not. But that's what somebody will do when he wants the money, and he will think of all sorts of ingenious ways which are not permitted.
So what happens in a case like that?
Well, he might get the money, but eventually he will lose that money. There's no beracha on money that's made on Shabbat. Somebody just told me yesterday that he made $1.5 million in the stock exchange very quickly. But as soon as he made it, he lost it. It came quickly and it went away quickly. There was no beracha on that money. That's the way things happen if they don't have a beracha. Now, what should this individual think? What should be the proper attitude? If Hashem really wants me to have this money, He would not make it in this way, that I should have to sign documents. Obviously, either it's not meant for me, or it's meant as a challenge, or whatever. That's the proper, healthy way of thinking. You're walking down the Beverly Boulevard on Shabbat, and you see a bundle of $100 bills. What are you going to do? On Shabbat you have two problems with money. You can't carry, and you can't move it, because it's muktzeh. There's a whole discussion in the halakha, believe it or not, what to do. You can't stand there till Shabbat is over. You're allowed to stay there.
You can't stand up?
You're allowed to stay there and watch it. Protect it. You can even ask your non-Jewish friend to take care of it.
You don't have?
Well, you can put something there if you were not carrying. But it's very tempting, right?
But what if you have a guy coming past and you ask him to pick it?
Yes, you could do that. The rabbis allow it in that case because in that kind of a situation, if you trust the goy.
Yeah, but it's not yours to begin with.
If you trust the goy. Yeah. In that kind of a situation, they allow the poor fellow who can't, move away, from that money. It's so precious to him. So they allowed certain things like that. Obviously, he's not transgressing a prohibition from the Torah by doing that. So they allowed it. But anyway, all of these could be nisyonot, challenges. A mitziyah. Why can't you find it on a Sunday or a Monday? Right? So it could be Hashem is testing. Let's see what you're going to do with it. Now, obviously, if you followed the halakha, you didn't do anything wrong. If you did everything properly. If you stood there until Shabbat was over, if it just happened to be you found this on Shabbat 6 o'clock in the afternoon, that's fine. But if you found it 8 o'clock in the morning, I don't think you're going to stay there till Motzei Shabbat, right? So it all depends. Anyway, so Hamas is mentioned here because Yetzer HaMamon is very powerful. When it comes to money, people will steal, people will lie, people will overcharge and cheat. And when it comes to Gezel or Gneva, Lo Tignov, it does not only apply to actually taking something away. Not paying on time is a form of Hamas too. It's called Oshek, or other forms of cheating. All of that is prohibited, and all of that is part of the same Yetzer. And that is why this Yetzer exists in many areas, and people could easily transgress it. So therefore, don't be envious of somebody who goes in this way, and this is what he does. Why not? And as we'll see a list of explanations of why it's not a good idea to associate with such people and not to be envious of them. He says as follows: Ki to'avat Adonai naloz v'yesharim sodo. Hashem hates those who are perverted, and with the righteous, he gives his confidence. So there are two ideas mentioned in this pasuk. Hashem hates, or it's an abomination to him, those who are perverted, in other words, they do things crooked, and Hashem gives confidence to those who are righteous and straight. So first of all, Shlomo Melech is telling us that this is the attitude that you should have when you see somebody doing something perverted, not right, something crooked. It should be an abomination to you. You should detest it. Instead of being envious, do what Hashem does. It's an abomination to him. Hashem dislikes it. It's corrupt. This is how you should look to them. Not admire them, not want to copy them. Oh, if he can get away with it, if he can do it, why not me? You know where this happens a lot? This could happen with insurance companies. People fake accidents. People sue in this country for almost anything. What's their thinking? Well, the insurance companies have lots of money. After all, they overcharge us. Well, why are they overcharging? Because people are suing them. It's a vicious cycle. And therefore they find a way to justify, to be crooked, and to take from, they're not Jewish, they're rich, they take from me anyway. No, this is crooked, and Hashem despises this. It's an abomination, and this is the attitude that we should have. Don't be envious, don't think about doing something like that. Our attitude has to be, this is totally unacceptable. It's an abomination. It's crooked. Another reason why we don't want to be envious of such individuals who take their money in a corrupt way is because there are certain things in this world, the rabbis tell us, that Hashem avenges, or Hashem nifra, Hashem punishes individuals in this world. Otherwise, for the most part, sechar ve'onesh is in olam haba. Reward and punishment is not in this world. For the most part, it's in olam haba. But there are areas, and there are certain activities or certain actions for which Hashem punishes even in this world. Chilul Hashem. If one desecrates the name of Hashem, there are various averot that Hashem is very, very strict and therefore carries out the punishment in this world. Hashem yinkom, therefore, Hashem will avenge from those who take from the poor, those who cheat. And it may be for 30, 40 years that it appears that they're getting away with it, but in the end, something will happen. Quick story that you may have heard from me. There was once a landlord who was stingy, and one of his tenants was a widow with several orphans. And it just happened that over time, she could not come up with the rent. And the guy threatened her, he's going to evict her. The rabbis tried to intercede, and of course they couldn't come up with the money themselves to help the poor widow, and they told him to just wait, to be patient, that eventually she'll pay. He didn't want to hear of it. But he couldn't force her to leave either, so what did he do? In the middle of the winter, he took off the roof from the house. And it started snowing in on them. And after a while they couldn't take it, the cold and the snow, so they were forced to leave the home. When the rabbis heard about that, they said, we are confident that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will avenge the honor of this widow and orphans for what this miserable man did to them. Eventually, somehow, at some point, something's going to happen to him. This is not going to go through just like that. But 30 years went by, this man was becoming wealthy and richer and prospering. Nothing happened to him. Everybody was wondering. But then something did happen. There was a big magefa, there was a plague, and people died in the plague. And this man, who was a young man, also died. He died. Now, because it was a plague, anybody who died because of the plague, it's contagious. So he died in the middle of the street. Nobody wanted to touch him. Nobody took him to bury him, because everybody was afraid. And it snowed on him, and it rained on him. Midah keneged midah, exactly what he did to the poor widow happened to him. He died prematurely. It snowed on him in the street. Nobody bothered to pick up his body for a long time, until his father, who was in his 80s perhaps, saw that nobody else took care of his son's body. He himself had to drag the body of his own son, bury him. Somehow, at some point, Hashem will take nekama from all those who behave in such a way, taking advantage of others, stealing from them, and doing things in a corrupt manner. So therefore, don't be jealous of them. You don't want to be in their shoes. With Yesharim Sodo, what he meant that Kadosh Baruch Hu puts his confidence with those who are righteous, it's because the righteous will understand Hashem's ways. And they will see something happening and they will understand that perhaps HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not want to exact punishment from him at this point because maybe he has a zechut. But at some other point, something will happen. There was alright, remind me if we have time, I'll tell you another story about this particular point. Me'erat Adonai bevet rasha unvet tzadikim yivarech. The curse of Hashem is in the house of the wicked, but He blesses the habitation of the just. In other words, don't be impressed by the money and the wealth of an individual who is corrupt, who is a rasha, because that money is cursed. As we said, they gave the example of money that was made on Shabbat. There's no beracha. So therefore, there's a curse in that man's house. Even though he has money, if he's a rasha, that money is not blessed. As Shlomo Melech tells us in Kohelet, Yesh osha shamur leba'alav lera'ato. There are sometimes wealth given to a person to his detriment. In other words, it will bring about his complete collapse. He all of a sudden will find all this money, and because of that, somebody will hold him up, and he will get killed. Only because of all this money. He had all these additional worries, he couldn't sleep, he had all these problems, only because of all this money. In a few more chapters we will see that richness or wealth that comes from Hashem is a beracha. But if it's not from Hashem, if Hashem did not really want this person to have this beracha, then this wealth, all this money, could bring about his downfall, could drive him crazy. So there is a curse in this man's home, meaning that this wealth that he gathered in a crooked way, because he's a rasha, is cursed. But unvei tzadikim yivarech. But the homes of tzadikim which are modest, they don't have that much, they are blessed. And what that means is that even though they have a little bit, the little bit they have is blessed. And anytime something is blessed, even if it's a little bit, a lot can come out of it, because a blessing brings about growth. And one of these days it could be that the little bit that they have will grow. Next pasuk, he says here, surely he scorns the scorners, but he gives grace to the humble. What that means is that we're talking about clowns now, the scorners. In English there's a famous saying, he who has the last laugh, the what?
Laughs best.
Laughs best. And that's one of the ideas over here. Even though the clowns are scorning those who are just and those who are righteous, in the end we will be scorning them. We will have the last laugh, because their scorning will not last long. As I said before, it may last for a number of years, but in the end it will be those who are just and righteous who will laugh at them. Another idea behind this pasuk, if Hashem has blessed or has made the clowns, those who have been scornful of the mitzvot, prosperous, the more so those who are righteous and those who are observant of the mitzvot. If these guys can have so good of a life, they imagine the sachar, the reward of those who worked hard, who performed the mitzvot. And this is the proper attitude that one should have when he sees Rasha v'tovlo, when he sees the wicked prospering. Rasha v'tovlo, there is a situation where Rasha has a good time. What's the attitude? That if Hashem is paying them off, perhaps for one day in their life that they put on tefillin, can you imagine one who's been so careful with the mitzvot and has acted properly, how much more he would receive? It was, instead of having problems with why are the Rashaim prosperous, why are they doing so well, the attitude should be, imagine if they're doing so well, the kol sheken, the more so those who died in the name of Hashem, those who struggled to observe the mitzvot, the more so that they will be rewarded immensely. Another idea, the Rabbi tells in the Gemara, person wants to clown around, wants to become impure, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will open the door, come in. Hashem does not lead someone in that way. The Gemara says, they will allow him to go in that way, but they're not going to push him in that way. They will open the door. You want to become unclean? The doors are open. One who wants to become clean, he will actually receive assistance from heaven. But you want to become a clown, you want to clown around in this world, they're going to allow you to do so. They're not going to stop you. And the last pasuk of the perek is Kavod Chachamim Inchalu Uchselim Merim Kalon. The wise shall inherit honor, but fools shall get shame. The fools and the clowns, they look up and admire that which is shameful. But in reality, what do the rabbis tell us? Be careful not to look at the outer shell of anything. Al tistakil bakankan elav b'ma sheyesh bo. Because there are sometimes things that appear to be impressive, but they're shameful in reality. There's nothing to them. They're worthless. As there's a story with David HaMelech was chosen to be the future king. Shemuel went to find this man, and he went to the family of Yishai because he was told it's one of the kids. And Yishai thought it was the older kid, Eliav, and Hashem tells Shmuel, don't look at Eliav, don't look at his height and his beauty, because I see what's going on in their heart. Human beings only see with their eyes on the outside, on the surface. That man is not fit to be the king, and neither were any of the other children. It was only David HaMelech, the young little boy, who nobody would think at that moment that it was him. But Hashem sees what's going on and who has the true potential. So the letzim or the ksilim, the fools, admire that which should not be admired. They elevate that which should be shafel, should be low and not esteemed, because they see what's on the surface. They don't see the reality. But for the chachamim inchalu, the true honor, in the end, the chachamim are the ones who are going to inherit. The reason why he says the honor is going to be inherited, because inheritance does not come overnight, it comes with time. So you sometimes have to wait many years to receive an inheritance. And the reason why he puts it into this pasuk is because that which is admired by many individuals is because people see things instantaneously. Oh, this man made so much money in the internet, this man made so much money in the stock exchange. They look up to it, they want to do it themselves, they think this will bring them osher v'chavod, but this is not only not true, and not only is it temporary, it's misleading. This is shafel, this is not something to look up and to admire. What is really kavod does not happen overnight. It happens with a lot of work, and it takes a long time. So the kavod, chachamim nechalu, the chachamim, the righteous, those who are learning, they take their time, they study, they perform the mitzvah, and they know that the kavod yavo basof, in olam haba. The Yetzer Hara, unfortunately, is very successful in convincing many people because he pays in cash. You have immediate gratification. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mishalem b'chek dahui. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays with a post-dated check. Right? He says that all the reward that I'm going to give you is going to be in olam haba. And that is why people really fall for it. They really think that these individuals are doing so well. They're not doing any mitzvot, not keeping Shabbat, and they're getting away with it. That's part of the avodah of the Yetzer Hara. But the reality is that Shlomo Melech reminds us that true kavod will be as an inheritance. It will be le'olam haba. Anyway, the story is with the Jose Melublin. The Jose Melublin was a great saint that passed away about 190 years ago. Third generation after the Baal Shem Tov. People used to go to him for blessings. He was the seer. He would be able to see with Ruach HaKodesh what is going on from a distance. And people went for him to seek his advice and to get his blessing. There was once a community that decided that they were having a tremendous amount of trouble from this malshin. Malshin means one who is I'm sorry? An informer. Thank you very much. An informer. And an informer is something that is obviously very dangerous. And unfortunately, this is a Jew informing about his own Jewish brothers about something, regardless of whether it was true or not. And they decided, listen, we have no way, this guy is powerful, let's go to the Jose Meluvin, they should curse him. And they come to him, and the way to enter the Rebbe, his home, was with a kvittel. A kvittel means a piece of paper where you write the man's name and the mother. And you ask for help, for parnasah. And they told him what this guy is doing. They were waiting to hear, okay, he's going to curse him now. And he looks at the paper, and he says, Tzaddik Gamur. This man is a tzaddik. They thought the rabbi perhaps did not read the name right. They didn't understand what's going on. They said they're going to try again the next day. The next day they bring in the name again. This time he says, Ke Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. This man is like the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur? Wow. There's something that either they don't know, or that the rabbi is simply not seeing things clearly. They were almost willing to give up, but they decided to go in one more time on their way home. So before they leave, they go in one more time. And this time the rabbi takes a look at the paper and he says, Rasha Gamur, Yimach Shemo, V'zichro, and he gives them some kelala. Now they were really confused. But it turns out to be, when they came home, they understood. When the rabbi said Sadiq Gamur, this man just had a little boy and he was preparing him for the Brit Milah. He was osek b'mitzvah. He was occupied with the mitzvah. On the day of the Brit Milah, when he was a sandak, he was like a Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippurim. During that time, the rabbi could not curse him. He can only see the good in him. Only later on, after the mitzvah was over, was he able to, of course, curse this man who was wicked, who was a Rasha Gamur. What we see from this is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes looks at an individual at a given time and he sees this man is good, even though he does a lot of things that are not so good. And he allows him to live his life. But at some point, eventually, he will have to pay for all his debts, unless he does teshuvah. And that is the importance of doing the teshuvah regularly, because we hope to cleanse all our sins ba'olam hazeh and not have to pay for it in olam haba. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us many opportunities. He sends us many reminders, because He doesn't want any Jew to be a rasha. But many people are just unaware. They're not wicked, they're simply unaware and they do things. And of course Hashem is concerned about the neshama of every individual, and that is why through His mercy He sends us many reminders and He gives us the opportunity to do complete teshuvah. Okay, so B'ezrat Hashem we'll continue next week.